It's Tuesday, May 31. In the headlines, BOJ set to review the Code of Conduct for microcredit institutions. Transitional facility for homeless persons. No disruption in operations at Falmouth Port. Regionally, Barbados impacted by the shortage of baby formula. And in sports, the West Indies does battle against the Netherlands. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Jamaica's first adult transitional facility for homeless persons has been opened in downtown Kingston. The state-of-the-art facility was officially opened on Friday by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. The King Street-based facility was transformed from an abandoned dental office into a modern homeless center. The Prime Minister says the new facility, which will operate on a 24-hour basis, will set an example of the high quality of care that poor and vulnerable citizens deserve.
Homelessness is a devastating, dangerous, and isolating reality for too many Jamaicans. It is anticipated that this facility will set an example of service excellence with regard to the improved care offerings to the poor and vulnerable.
Pointing out that over 60% of Jamaica's homeless population is in Kingston and St. Andrew, Mr. Holness says there are plans to increase the facility's capacity. In its current state, it can house 40 occupants, and the intention is to add another floor and increase the capacity to 100. The Transitional Living Facility is named in honor of local government minister Desmond McKenzie, who first began advocating for such a development when he was councillor and mayor of Kingston. Minister McKenzie expressed happiness that the dream is finally a reality.
This is what we need to do to respond to the plight of these people. Many of them, Prime Minister and colleagues, contribute to the growth and development of Jamaica. Many of them were taxpayers. We're putting in a therapeutic park. We're putting in facilities here that they can come and enjoy the comfort of a home because they deserve to be remembered for the role they play.
Chandlers Pen Infant and Primary School in Clarendon has suspended classes after 4 suspected cases of hand, foot and mouth disease were reported among students. A statement from the Ministry of Education says the students will not return to the school for the rest of this week, while deep cleaning will start on Tuesday, May 31. The ministry says all classes will be facilitated online. Hand, foot and mouth disease is a mild, contagious viral infection common in young children. It's characterized by sores in the mouth and a rash on the hands and feet. Initial signs of hand, foot and mouth disease include fever, loss of appetite, sore throat, and a feeling of malaise. The symptoms generally last for 1 to 2 days before a blister-like rash appears on the hands, feet, and in the mouth. The Port Authority of Jamaica, PAJ, and Royal Caribbean have advised that a minor incident involving a cruise line's vessel, Harmony of the Seas, on arrival at the Falmouth Port in Trelawney on May 26, resulted in no disruption to operations. Royal Caribbean, in a statement, indicates that the ship, which came into contact with an extension of the dock, incurred minor damage. PAJ says in their statement the vessel collided with a mooring dolphin, adding that the incident did not result in any significant damage. The Port Authority of Jamaica also notes that in situations like this, Section 21 of the Pilotage Act provides for the appointment of an investigator required to provide the PAJ with a report of findings. It states that the agency and Royal Caribbean are in the process of undertaking a joint investigation to determine the cause of the incident. The PAJ advises the public that this incident will not result in any disruption to cruise shipping operations or require any adjustments to cruise schedules. Residents of Dullibert Lane in St. Thomas says it's been weeks since water has settled at the entrance to the lane, and with the rainy season upon us, they're worried.
This water here been settling here for over 2 weeks. Each time the rain fall, it have been like this, sometimes it's even worse. We are begging the Prime Minister, anyone that control all of this, would come and help it. It is not looking good. Since they having the road, all of the digging and all of that cause it even getting worse. That's why we got this type of look.
The Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, which stretches from St. Andrew to Port Antonio, Portland, involves the construction of a 4-lane highway from Harborview Roundabout to Albion in St. Thomas. The project seeks to improve the alignment and capacity of the existing Southern Coastal Main Arterial Road so that it will be safe and efficient, free from flooding, and provide for future development. In this episode of Living Healthy, we'll be learning about monkeypox. The symptoms of monkeypox are similar but milder than the symptoms of smallpox. Monkeypox begins with fever, headache, muscle aches, and exhaustion. The World Health Organization says 23 countries have reported a total of 257 confirmed cases and roughly 120 suspected cases under investigation as of May 26. To date, most of the cases have been diagnosed in Europe and North America. The United States had detected 12 cases as of Friday. The WHO's advisor on HIV and STIs, Andy Seal, along with head of its smallpox division, Dr. Rosamund Lewis, and technical lead, Dr. Maria Vankakov, shares some information about the disease. They sat down at the recent 75th World Health Assembly.
We do have ongoing working relationships with the Ministries of Health and the laboratories in the African region. We have several countries that we work with very closely because they have been reporting monkeypox over the last few years. These include Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Central African Republic, and Cameroon. This is where we're seeing cases being reported now, and so we're working very closely with these countries to help respond and to help try and ascertain why this virus is now becoming more frequently reported.
How does monkeypox spread, and therefore how do you prevent getting monkeypox?
So let's just say right off the top that monkeypox and COVID are not the same disease. It's caused by a different virus and it spreads in a different manner. The way it does spread is through close physical contact. People who have monkeypox do develop a rash, and that rash, if you touch it, that can be contagious. So it is person-to-person close contact spread when it's within families or within social networks where close contact happens.
With us, Andy Seal, and you might be wondering, why do you have somebody from the HIV, hepatitis, and STIs program to speak with us as well? Some of the cases we have seen this time have been among people who identify themselves as men who have sex with men. We're still trying to understand the dynamics of the transmission, but for now there's some very specific advice we want to give with a community of people who are most affected at this time. So Andy, I want to hand it over to you. It actually would be interesting if you could mention the consultation you just had, and as well as what advice we have.
Thanks so much. So I think one of the things we've recognized with this outbreak, it's not typical. We're seeing cases, as you say, among men who identify as gay, bisexual, or from other groups of men who have sex with men in several countries, often linked to travel, or recent travel. And it seems clear, as Rosamund was saying, that this is linked to close contact. So this could be through social contact, possibly through sexual contact, which of course is close contact. We're still in the early days of this outbreak, so there's a lot we're still learning. But the communities themselves are clearly, number one, concerned and really keen on getting accurate information to help them understand risk and how they can manage the risk. And number two, they're really keen to make sure that information is proportionate and fair, and there's a lot of stigma and discrimination that surrounds many diseases. And I think the key thing we need to look out for is, as WHO, to work with our partners in communities and elsewhere to make sure that the messaging is correct, So while, for example, we're seeing some cases amongst men who have sex with men, this is not a gay disease, as some people in social media have attempted to label it. That's just not the case. Anybody can contract monkeypox through close contact.
There's a question on whether or not there's something about the virus itself that has changed. Why are we seeing this happening now? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Lewis?
So the question is about whether the virus is changing. So we don't have the answer to this. We don't really know. We can say that this is a DNA virus. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, amongst the largest viruses known. The mutation rate is much lower than for RNA viruses, and so it's a very stable virus. So we don't yet have evidence that there's mutation in the virus itself. Of course, there was smallpox vaccines available, and those contributed tremendously to the eradication of smallpox. At that time, it was learned that, it was observed and studies were done, that the smallpox vaccines used at that time were protective against monkeypox about 85% of the time. If you've been following, of course you have been following vaccine efficacy information around COVID and other diseases, you'll know that 85% is not perfect, but it's also not terrible. And I would also add that this is a vaccine effectiveness that is attributed to the older vaccines, and we now have new vaccines, because although smallpox was eradicated, research has continued for the last 40 years, and people were wondering why. Well, this might be a good example of why, that these viruses are closely related to each other, and now we have the benefit of all those years of research in diagnostics, in treatments, and in vaccines that will be brought to bear upon the situation now.
The Bank of Jamaica is set to review the code of conduct for microcredit institutions, and we get our regular market updates from Danita Rodney in this business report.
The Consumer Affairs Commission, CAC, says a code of conduct has been drafted to govern how microcredit institutions, MCIS, should operate under the Microcredit Act. Speaking in an interview with JIS News, CEO of the CAC, Dulcie Allen, informed that the draft code of conduct has been submitted for review to the Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, which has the regulatory responsibility for the act. The code of conduct, when finalized, will include the name, occupation, and place of residence for the borrower, the business of the parties, the date on which the loan was made and disbursed, the loan amount, the terms of repayment, and interest rate charges. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, May 30, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.65. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $123.91. The pound sterling traded for $196.95, and the euro sold for an average of $168.30. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Monday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 4,466 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 26 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 4,415 points to close at over 400,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 4,305 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 106 stocks, of which 55 advanced, 35 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Trading firm were Siboney Group Limited, Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share, and Equity Line Mortgage Investment Corporation Preference Shares. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders: Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited, Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited, and Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, 0 securities were traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, 0 securities were traded. In market data for oil prices extended this morning after the EU agreed to a partial and phased ban on Russian oil and China decided to lift some coronavirus restrictions. Brent crude rose $2.11 or 1.7% to $123.78 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was trading at $118.53 a barrel, up $3.46 or 3%. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in the Bahamas, Director of the National HIV, AIDS and Infectious Disease Program, Dr. Nikia Forbes, says residents are not at major risk of monkeypox at this time. Our News Bahamas has the report.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness issuing a statement noting one person is currently being monitored for the disease. Officials saying the individual, a man in his mid-30s who arrived in country last weekend, has a history of travel and has been placed in isolation. Despite this, Dr. Forbes says there is no need to panic.
There are about 10 cases in the United States, and that is spread across several states, but it is being monitored extremely closely, and it is definitely something that is containable at this time, although things can change. And so it's not a very big risk to the general population right now. The risk to the general population remains low at this time.
The World Health Organization is reporting 200 confirmed cases of monkeypox worldwide. Dr. Forbes explaining some of the symptoms may last for 2 to 4 weeks.
Yes, so people who have monkeypox, they will have a skin rash, and they will have a fever usually before the skin rash develops. And the fever can be anywhere within 1 to 3 days of developing the skin rash. And the skin rash, it can start with a small itchy rash. We call that maculopapula, but then it's going to progress into something called vesicles. And what that is it's a rash and inside the skin lesions, it's fluid filled at first.
A government official has confirmed that Barbados has been impacted by the shortage of baby formula, which originated in the United States. CBC News spoke with the Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Business Development, Sandra Husbands.
We've not had as big an impact in relation to the availability overall of baby formula. We would have had an impact in relation to the supplier of the Similac, and they're hoping to receive a shipment of the Similac sensitive powder and ready-to-feed formula within 1 to 2 weeks.
Minister Husbands says Barbados has an adequate supply of other brands of baby formula.
The other persons who sell and import the baby milk products, which would be other brands like Infamil or Lactogen, etc., they don't have any problems at the moment in relation to the availability of baby milk. Many of them are expecting shipments within the next 2 to 4 weeks, and so it is anticipated, and these primarily come in from other sources beside the United States. Some come in from Mexico, etc. So at the moment, Barbados will not have a problem with access to baby formula.
As of July 1, 2022, public transport in St. Lucia will cost more. The government has not announced what the new rates will be. However, Transport Minister Stevenson King says bus drivers deserve an increase. More from MBC Prime.
The government has greenlit the NCOPT's request to introduce higher bus fares, mainly due to the increasing costs of petrol products. Although the new rates have not been publicized, authorities have confirmed public transport users can expect to pay more as of July 1st. The increase in bus fares has since elicited debate and demands for a commensurate increase in wages and salaries. Transport Minister Stevenson King has attempted to allay public concern on the price hike.
Yes, there will be an increase from what I've seen based on the recommendations of the 2013 exercise. I consider it to be moderate. It is not as severe as many may think. I believe, having not received an increase from since well, long before 2013. 2013 was when the review was done. You were speaking about 13 years, more or less, since the last review. And so I think it is deserving, and I'm hoping that the general public will understand.
In April, NBC Prime randomly surveyed public transport users on the new rates. What's your salary, your income you're gonna?
Well, I'm a pensioner. I cannot afford it, but it is what it is.
All right.
I cannot afford it, but it is what it is, my son.
Challenge for every one of us, because especially those who cannot make it, they are in trouble because the salary not going up and the bus is going up.
How do you think it might affect you if it goes up?
Like anything else, you cannot do the things you used to do before, so you have to kind of sacrifice, make some sacrification to cope.
I think the bus drivers, I think with everything going up, it's unavoidable.
How do you think it's going to affect you and the way you transport, the way you move about?
Well, I guess the same way everything is affecting all of us right now.
The bus fare increase come at a time when the cost of living has shot up. Any upward adjustment in bus fare rates will force households and public transport users to review their budgets.
In Grenada, the National Democratic Congress is being accused of setting the country back every time they are elected into government. GBN has the details.
Those 4 years of the NDC, 5 years, sorry, 2008 to 2013, had set this country back 15 to 20 years, sisters and brothers. And I want to add, 1990 to 95, when they came into government, they set the country back another 15 years. Every time you give them the country to run, they have destroyed this country's economy.
Addressing party supporters last Saturday in Carriacou during the endorsement of caretaker Kindra Mathurin Stewart, the Prime Minister claims that the NDC has done a disservice to the Grenadian people each time they are elected to govern the country.
First few years, we were bent on ensuring economic stability, fiscal fluency, and from putting a bandage on the wounds of the country's economy and ensuring that people did not fall into poverty. When we returned, we found that investments in key sectors of the economy were down. Budgets in key sectors like education, health were cut. And our youth had been basically abandoned. They sent home the monies that were there. So that is where we came from. And we gradually nursed the economy back to growth.
He further expounded on what the new National Party found when they returned to office.
We walked into the Treasury only to realize there was no money again to pay public servants in the next 2 weeks. The situation was dire. Remember, the NDC government was selling out state assets, land, building, just to pay salaries. Simply said, they could not manage. They didn't have a clue. The outgoing NDC government effectively cleared the Treasury on their way out.
Chrislina John.
Around 1,000 Guyanese are set to get jobs through a government-led initiative designed to help ease the cost of living. More details in this NCN report.
Vice President Dr. Bara Jagdeo says the provision of these temporary jobs is part of a countrywide plan of providing relief through the provision of a total of 8,000 temporary jobs. He had previously stated that 800 jobs will be created in Region 10. However, that has now been increased to 1,000.
It's not free money. You have to work. But you don't have to go in the fields, etc., because we need a lot of people to assist in the hospitals. We need some to assist in the libraries, in the schools. We can place people in different agencies so they're doing productive work, whilst we're hoping also that they would study.
Persons who have signed contracts will be able to earn $40,000 a month through these jobs. The Vice President urged beneficiaries to also grasp the opportunities that are available and continue to be created to enhance their skills and obtain educational certifications that will assist them in finding other jobs which are permanent in nature.
In sports, Jamaica's Ricardo Big 12 Brown improved his professional ring record to 3-0-0 with a swift, impressive victory over Mexican Santiago Martinez Perez in their heavyweight clash at the CAA Center in Brampton, Canada on Saturday. The 32-year-old Brown recorded a second-round TKO win over his opponent. Former West Indies all-rounder David Halford passed away early Tuesday following a long illness. The icon, who turned 82 last month, featured in 24 tests between 1966 and 1977 and also led Barbados in the first-class championship. In only his second test, Halford struck an unbeaten 100 in the second innings to rescue West Indies in a 274-run sixth-wicket stand with his cousin, Barbados' national hero Sir Gary Sobers, in the second test at Lord's in 1966. He scored 3,821 first-class runs with 300s and grabbed 253 wickets with his leg spin. Following his playing days, Halford served as West Indies manager and convener of selectors. Captain Nicholas Perrin has made it clear there is no room for complacency as the West Indies does battle against the Netherlands today, May 31, in the first ODI of the three-match series at the VRA ground. The West Indies have had a dismal run in ODI format in recent times. Their last series was against India in February, where they were thrashed 3-0. Before that, they suffered a surprising 2-1 defeat in Ireland in January. It will be the Windies' first ever ODI series against the Dutch side, and Perrin believes his players need to be in the correct frame of mind.
Obviously, we don't want to be complacent. We just saw the Netherlands played New Zealand and they did well. You know, they wasn't successful, but as a team, I thought they played really well. I think they have some good players as well. They have some good skills, so we're looking forward to the contest, and hopefully we can again do the right things and just stay in the present and get those victories.
Perrin will oversee his first assignment as full-time West Indies ODI captain and provided some insight as to how he plans to lead.
Try to make the best decisions for the team. I'm very instinctive, so a lot of my decisions you guys may not like, but hopefully it could be the right decision for the team at that point in time. It's similar to my batting a bit, so hopefully that goes well. We had some healthy discussions. We know as a team we need to bat 50 overs, and we believe here's the right place to start. So we're looking forward to batting 50 overs, once we get the opportunity, and hopefully that's a start and that's a stepping stone for us.
West Indies won the toss and opted to bowl. Scores up to broadcast time were: due to rain delays, the overs have been reduced to 45. Scores: Netherlands 240 for 7 at the end of their 45 overs. West Indies 227 for 3. West Indies needs 20 runs with 24 balls left to win the match. And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. Remember to follow us on all social media pages at PBC Jamaica. Thank you for watching.